Pantaenius is a German family-owned company that has its origins well over 100 years now. Since the 60s, when Harald Baum purchased Pantaenius, the company has become synonymous with the best and most comprehensive cover for sail and power-driven craft. The company continues to provide standout cover for all manner of boats and is Europe's largest insurer of superyachts and the leader in bluewater cruising cover, with the only genuine global policy to match their worldwide presence. The Australian fully owned subsidiary started back in 2012 and has grown steadily, with something in the order of 7,000 clients now under cover. More importantly, the company has become an icon for service, with the Pantaenius team first on the ground in Northern Queensland after the devastation that was Cyclone Debbie.
So, Jamie, welcome. Really good to be speaking to you today. You've spent a lot of time aboard all manner of vessels, and the 90s were a particularly good time for you sailing. Can you tell us a bit about this?
The 90s were particularly good because I got involved in selling and promoting and racing in those days, IMS-based racing yachts. And through the 90s, I guess we focused on just production boats and also some Grand Prix boats. And the obvious place to take them was somewhere like Hamilton Island. So we were successful. I think through the 90s, we put together 7 winners at Hamilton Island. And, from J35s to Mum 36s, the first of the Quests for Bob Steele, and also the Sword of Orion for Rob Cothey, of course, who, as you know well, started the business that you're involved with. So it was a really fun time, and I spent probably much too much time on the water. My family were laid, back at home, and obviously I should have spent more time with my young kids in those days, but anyway, I've made up for that the next decade.
And more recently, talking of sailing with your family, sailed with your brother in the 5.5s.
Yeah, look, I've never sailed with I shouldn't say never. I mean, we started sailing in Manly Juniors when we were 6 and 8 years old, but, since the Manly Junior days, I've really never sailed with Andrew at all. And I took the opportunity with the 5.5s to buy a good boat. It was an Evolution boat, and we found that boat in Curacao in the Dutch Antilles and managed to squirrel it out of there and get it here in time to do the event. And look, it was great fun, and it was good bonding for Andrew and me, and something that, I think I'd promised my father, we were going to do at some stage, but he didn't get to see it. But we had a lot of fun, and we were second in the end of the day in the Evolution class, which for us, we thought was a pretty good result. It was good fun. Great event. And great boat.
And it's not just sailing. In powerboats, for example, I understand you delivered a Grand Banks 57 across the top of Australia.
Yeah, I did that back in 1992, and I look back at it now, and I guess as I get older, I kind of cherish the journey even more than, I did then or I have in the past. We saw the Kimberleys, we saw some amazing spots, a lot of great experiences. We did a lot of fishing, all the sorts of stuff that I probably don't do very much of. But yeah, look, seeing part of Australia, particularly in '92, there was just nothing out there. There was some prawn trawlers running across the top. There was the pearl business was actually alive and running those days out of Broome. So we saw some pearl luggers, and we met some pretty interesting characters, I have to say. There's some people up there that have never been to the big smoke, so to speak. So it was interesting, but some great Australians, a beautiful country. Certainly a really great experience.
That must have been absolutely amazing. And you still water ski today, I understand.
Yeah, our family's got a little shack up at the Hawkesbury River at a place called Lower Portland. And it's a shack. It's a little 2-bedroom cottage, and we're about 60 foot off the water. And we've got an old sort of ski boat up there, and it's more a social thing. I love skiing. I love single skiing, and it helps try and keep me fit. So it's about the only thing I do that actually, stresses my body. It's somewhat. I get some sort of exercise out of it, which is great.
Brilliant stuff. I was out windsurfing at the weekend, and I definitely felt that on Sunday. But it's not just being on boats. You've got extensive experience building them in Australia and overseas, and this deep understanding of vessel construction must be vital in your present role when assessing damage, investigating modifications, and checking on repairs.
Yeah, I think that's been invaluable for me. In the 80s, I did a lot of project management with construction of mainly powerboats in Taiwan. We built some boats here, but not very many. And in the 90s, I was involved with the building of the 11-metre one designs and also then the Etchells, the E22s, through the 90s with a company called Pacesetter Etchells. And then I project managed, along with my partner at the time, Rod Jacobs, a number of racing yachts, and including the Quests for Bob Steele and Cookson 12s that were built by Mick Cookson down in New Zealand, and a range of other one-off yachts. So I've got a reasonably good understanding for, the way the boats go together. I understand epoxy laminates, and obviously understand, a little bit about pre-preg and those sorts of things. But I've got a pretty good grip too on just straight out, fiberglass production boats. So that helps me, but it probably helps me and the business more because I get to talk to my staff, about what they're looking at when they're looking at a claim, and being able to assist them in that space, I think, really makes their assessment and their understanding of what they're looking at, a whole lot clearer. And it's definitely helped us internally, at least anyway.
It would obviously, in the business, having this understanding. So do you think this is what makes Pantaenius so different, or are there other factors?
Look, I think it helps, and it's not just me. In Pantaenius offices around the world, there's a range of other people that have got similar sorts of experience. So Pantaenius has gone out of its way to employ people that may not be, long-term insurance specialists, but people that have actually got hands-on experience, in the marine market, who get to understand what the risk portfolio really should look like. And I think it's helped Pantaenius. And the other thing they've done worldwide, and we do here, is we try very hard to employ people into our office who know what a boat is, who know what a propeller, a keel, a rudder is. They know what a boom is. They know what a boom bang is. And in that context, we're pretty unique. Anywhere around the world, including Australia, there's very few insurers, that your bluewater cruising guy with 30 years of experience can actually ring up and have a conversation with pretty much anybody in the office about a component in their boat, or about where they're cruising, or about what time you've got to leave the Galapagos to get safely to the Marquesas, or any of these sorts of issues. And that's something that we do, and we pride ourselves on the inherent knowledge of everybody in our business.
So it is that deep knowledge that clearly comes all the way from the top, works through to everybody within the business, and means that with your clients, you can talk their language.
Look, absolutely. And I think, we're not selling car insurance. It's not home insurance. It's not business insurance. We're selling insurance to people for the asset that they love to spend their time on. So the whole relationship's a different relationship. And being able to discuss their concerns about the boat, the way they maintain their boat, where to take your boat in the event of an issue, all these sorts of things, really, it makes a huge difference, we believe, to our customers. And we do pride ourselves on pretty much everybody in the office outside our financial controller, can have those conversations, with the customer base. And again, I think because we can do that, we do offer a unique service.
We're living through extraordinary times at the moment. And how are you helping your clients through the COVID-19 pandemic?
Here in Australia, we're offering people support when it comes to paying their invoices. We're preparing, a whole range of different terms for people. We're tailoring, payment plans. And to be fair, we haven't had hundreds of people, request help, but we've probably had 100 people request help, and we've done our best to support those people as best we can. So I think that's firstly important because, you know, that's something that every insurance player in the Australian market should do and has to do as part of their civic, you know, responsibility. So that's the first thing. Overseas, of course, you know, unlike a lot of other Australian insurers, about 30 or 35% of all the people that are insured with Pantaenius in Australia have actually got their boats somewhere else. You know, and out of that somewhere else is the Caribbean, the Pacific, and definitely in the Mediterranean. And we've got this group of customers, and it's somewhere probably around 1,500 customers now who keep their boats either part-time or permanently in the Med. You know, and for those people, this year's a disaster, of course, because they can't get on an airplane to go to their boat, even if the Med opens up, which in some areas it is. It doesn't help out the Australians and the Kiwis because they can't get on an airplane to go to their boat. So their boats have either got to come back out of the water because they've been put in the water, they get stored on land. You know, we call that a laid-up policy. And so we've just made that process easier. We provided some further discounts for people who are just not going to use their boat as long as the boats are in a secure yard. We've also provided what we call an import policy warranty, which gives people a bit of a discount who can't lift their boat out of the water but are leaving their boat in a safe marina environment. So in this way, we're helping them. There's a few others that are on their boats in some weird and wonderful places. So we're just trying to communicate with those people to make sure they know what the rules and regulations are for customs clearance, you know, whether they're going to be able to get into the Caribbean island, whether the local authorities are going to allow them to go on shore, these sorts of things. I mean, we're more an information source than anything there. And look, there's some other great information sources like Noonside, of course, which is, you know, the Bible for a lot of world cruising people. And, you know, we're thankful that Noonside's there, and all we're doing is trying to support wherever we can. And that's pretty much all we can do.
There have been a few major incidents and storms in recent years, and underwriters are changing the pleasure craft insurance landscape. How has this changed the relationship between the insurer and the client?
I think the clients are beginning to realise that, you know, the underwriters aren't out there making millions and millions and millions of dollars out of their insurance policies, specifically in marine risk anyway. You know, I think it's clear now that most of our insured actually realise that the underwriters probably have lost money in 5 or 6 out of the last 8 years. So clearly what that means is it's not a great risk to be involved with. And because of that, a lot of underwriters are pulling out of the market. I mean, Lloyd's, as we know, has all but left the marine retail space. Yes, there's still some involvement there, but there's certainly not very much. I mean, you know, I'm throwing a dart at the wall here, but I'm guessing they've walked away in the last 3 years on probably 85 or 90% of the business they once held. And that's taken a huge availability, you know, out of the retail, you know, marine market worldwide. You know, we've lost capacity. We're probably down 30% on capacity. And the remaining underwriters, and when I say underwriters, you know, a lot of people think that's a kind of technical word for some boffin who sits, you know, in a dark room somewhere. And maybe in some businesses that's the case. But when I talk about underwriters, I talk about the people who underwrite the policy. And in our case, that's 3 of the biggest insurance companies in the world. You know, Chubb, Berkshire Hathaway, and Hanover Re. You know, and in their spaces, they're 3 of the 10 biggest insurance companies of the world. So, you know, they're on board with us, and there's a range of other huge insurance companies, of course, that are supporting some of the other players. But the goalposts have moved. You know, the rates have had to go up. You know, they're not going to keep investing in our little retail space unless they can make 2 or 3 or 4%. You know, if they can make 4%, they're actually pretty happy because, as we know, you know, when all the hedge funds and all the insurance and I should say superannuation funds worldwide start to look for somewhere to put their money, in Europe especially, you know, bank interest is negative. You can't even get 1%. So, you know, these guys are tickle pink if they can get 3 or 4% return, but they certainly don't want to lose 5 or 10%, on the other side of the fence. So it's tighter. It's much harder. It's much tighter. There's more restrictions. And it's affected a lot of our competitors. We've got competitors that are closing down. We've got underwriters that are removing themselves from the market. So I guess what all this means is the onus on our insured is to do a more diligent job in making sure that they jointly, together with the underwriter, take on some more responsibility in terms of, maintaining the risk and safeguarding the risk. So boat preparation, in the event of storms has become paramount. You can no longer leave your roller furling headsail, up on the forestay, when your boat's at Airlie Beach in the marina and you're in your office in Melbourne, and think that if it unfurls and the boat blows sideways across the marina and does hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of damage, that your insurance company is going to pick up the tab. Well, they're not anymore. There's no insurance company that's going to cover that anymore. If you have not removed the sail and you have not prepared your boat, chances are you're not going to get your insurance policy supported in the event of a claim. The world's changed. There is an onus on the owners to do a whole lot more than they used to do.
But so much of this is common sense and will actually mean that your boat, your vessel, your yacht is ready for the next season when you come to use it, and will just mean that it's going to be in pristine condition. So giving this advice and helping the client is actually just helping them get their maximum time on the water.
Yeah, look, we've taken the attitude here at Pantaenius in Australia particularly that we've tried very hard to educate the market, and a lot of the stories and a lot of the messages that we've distributed in the market have supported the whole insurance industry. I've got friends at Club Marine and other insurers who, we've written articles and they've rung me up and said, "Hey, Jamie, fantastic. Thank you for that." Because, we're talking about educating not just our customers, but their customers as well. And look, we've got to keep doing this because we want to make sure that we've got underwriters out there in 5 or 10 years' time who are going to fly the flag and say, yeah, we're going to cover your customer when he wants to sail to Lord Howe Island, or you want to go to the Barrier Reef and you want to go to Noumea and do a little Pacific tour. We've got an underwriter that's going to play because at least, there's an agreement there, an understanding that they're allowed to make a little bit of money in exchange for underwriting, the family boat, the risk. And as long as people do look after their boats, and do take some of that responsibility, I think we can be comfortable that we will have insurance companies who stand by us, in terms of insuring our loved assets.
So much has changed since you entered the Australian market in 2012 and took the market by storm with the only true agreed value policy going around. But what do you think things will look like 5 to 10 years from now?
Look, I see it getting harder. Clearly we're in a very difficult time at the moment with COVID-19. The world's biggest insurers have been struggling because of the number of cat events that we've seen in the last sort of 4 or 5 years. The wildfires in places like California, destroyed thousands and thousands and thousands of hectares, and they just totally decimated towns, and it's going to be years before the world's insurers catch up to that sort of, catastrophe. And the same with the hurricanes we saw, through the Caribbean 2.5, 3 years ago. So when they start to make money, then the premiums come back a little bit. But, if they're not making any money, then of course, unfortunately, the cost to insure our assets gets more expensive. And we all know in this world as we grow older that generally the cost to insure your motor car and your house and your prized possessions, it doesn't get cheaper. And that's just the world we live in, I guess. So all we can do as an intermediary, an MGA, which is what we are, is try and provide the best service and the best product we can, for our clients. And it's for us to show, together with our client support, what to do and what not to do, and present that case to the underwriter so that they they understand that we're doing our due diligence, that we're surveying the boats, that we're insisting on people, replacing their standing rigging when it gets old. We're insisting that people replace old faulty componentry. And yeah, that's good for us because we get less claims, but it also helps safeguard our clients. It's about education, and it's about making them aware that they really can do a better job, a lot of them, on maintaining their assets. And when they do that, everybody wins.
Well, Jamie, it is that deep understanding of the market that you've got through all of your background experience and time on the water, and then the communication that Pantaenius has with its clients, making sure that you can keep them educated as to what best practice is, which is clearly driving the business forwards. And everybody from the top down has that deep understanding and so can talk with the client. And so I think you're going to be at the forefront of this for a long, long time. So many thanks for your time. Great to speak to you today.
Thanks, Mark. Much appreciated. Cheers.